Jeff's music won't work?
No, works fine. I was waiting for the finger.
Yeah, you were.
Welcome to E1R Racers, a show designed for the world of low-dollar racing and oddball car culture. It doesn't matter what kind of Lemma-Champ or Lucky Track Dog you run, SCCA or NASA, we won't discriminate, as long as you drive it hard and built it yourself. Join us each week for tech discussion, tips, tricks, as well as news and notes in the world of low-dollar endurance racing, whether it's on the spot hella sweet, or we're lucky enough, and Chrissy flies to Pahonix. We're sure you'll giggle a little and learn even less. Everyone report to the paddock.
This is Chris.
This is Chrissy?
No, you're not Chrissy.
Oh, sorry. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Mental. And we are E1R Racers. Thanks for coming back and listening to the highest octane gasoline episode of our podcast. Folks, it's episode 113. If you're not driving a car, don't forget that E1R bingo card.
What 113, huh?
113. So our illustrious chief mechanic, for new listeners to the show, Chris is always the smart guy on the show, did the research, and he found that 113 is the highest octane gasoline you can buy.
Well, That's 10 minutes worth of research, mostly on VP's site. And it sounded good. I couldn't find anywhere else that was selling higher octane actual just gas, not
regular old
ethanol
gas.
Or methanol.
No. I want my gas. I want my gas, and when it catches me on fire, it's obvious I'm on fire. I don't want no invisible fire. I ain't no IndyCar driver. World needs to know I'm on fire.
Made from dinosaur, not from corn. That's what we're talking about.
Until I can start learning to eat gasoline, yeah, I think we should probably just focus on letting that be food.
Should we bury the lead and keep just ignoring the fact that it's like three dudes? Or should we mention that Chrissy's not here?
Yeah.
Chrissy, what are you working on?
I think the opening finger joke was clear that there was no female supervision.
All right, well, somebody read what Chrissy's working on, and then we can get on it.
Chrissy's currently working on sitting in an airplane on her way to Pahonix, where she's working. I'm not going to see her until like Friday night at midnight, so there we go. So you click on someone complains I'm working too much. We've got that done now. And also I think we can say skip over Chrissy, because we're going to skip over her for the rest of the episode.
Right over.
Yep, so that's that.
I'll skip her and go right to what I'm working on. This weekend I spent time with the wife. Isn't that exciting? Since I totally missed our anniversary.
Probably for everyone but your wife.
Exactly. Since I totally missed our anniversary going to SEMA and Boy Scout camping and work obligations and everything, I actually spent the weekend with my wife. We went to a fantastic event at a Mercedes dealership. It was a fundraiser, so I got to like poke around a whole bunch of new Mercedeses and stuff.
Which one did you like?
I liked the wagon I saw. Was it an E450?
E450.
I sent you the picture. It was an E450 wagon.
Yeah.
It had this really light parchment interior, and it was like snow white, and it was a wagon, and it was big, and it was sexy. So I liked it.
I saw the picture and I liked it, but I think we had that discussion in our group chat about I got beef for them calling it a 450. It's a super powerful engine, and it's an awesome car, and I absolutely would have one at the drop of a hat. But don't call it a 450 if you don't have 4.5 liters, even 4.4, 4.3. Come on.
As long as it rounds up to 4.
It's a 3.0 TT is what it is, but
exactly, and it's a gorgeous engine. It's super powerful and it's fantastic, and they should own it. E 3.3. I don't care.
It was a 2019 E450 4MATIC wagon. And Chris, you mentioned it was pretty low optioned because it was retailing at $64,200. Sticker, what was it? The Monroney sticker, right?
Monroney label.
Monroney sticker, $72,780.
Yeah, that's after the options. It's only got premium one pack and stuff. That's a pretty light one. You can option those out to like 90 because Mercedes.
We should baby seal eyes for headlights, all the nine, everything.
We should probably save this for the end, but I'll ask a question around the table. So if I happened to win, if my ticket would have been lucky to have been drawn, I could have gotten a C300 sedan, a C-Class Cabrio, an A220 sedan, a GLC coupe, a Sprinter cargo van, or a GLC SUV. That would have been my options.
Now, we're all going to say that you should get the Sprinter cargo van because
Totally.
all
Yeah.
the other ones you won't clean. But the Cabro is just a terrible idea because Jen won't drive it.
Why not?
She'd drive a convertible.
Yeah.
Would she drive it all the way? Because she's got a hell of a commute. That'd be a great car for a commute. She would fall in love with it.
Well, the C300 sedan is basically the same thing but a hardtop, right?
Yeah, they're all pretty much the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
Except
that's kind of the one I like.
It's a good-looking car. That coupe is a good-looking ride.
Just not the A class, because that's the
You
front.
know, the A class. No.
Or the
That wasn't an
GLA.
option.
Just all of the SUV they made on the A class. They're all just awful.
Yeah, the GLC coupe and the GLC SUV. Like, I looked at both of them and I was like, well, they're both SUVs. One of them's just like a mini SUV, and the other one's like
they're the same thing. They're both just jacked up C classes, but the GLC coupe is the one with the swoopy roof line, so you can't actually put anything in the back.
Yeah, that was like the non-starter.
Yeah,
I was definitely looking at the
Sprinter.
C300.
Duh.
Sprinter.
I already have a
Sprinter.
tow vehicle. I don't know.
Oh no,
Anyway.
that would be a camping vehicle because you get like the big luxury seats in the back and put a big screen TV, and you still get like 30 miles per gallon. No man, Sprinters are amazing.
All right.
All right.
Let's keep
Anyway,
going.
let me say what else I did.
Yeah.
So we went to the event at the Mercedes dealer. We went to dinner. We saw Ford versus Ferrari. So I guess I win because we went on an anniversary thing and we all did car stuff. So, and then I collected leaves for a day. So I guess I lose.
No, you were just paying your taxes, brother.
Just called
Anyway,
home ownership sports.
home ownership sports. Yes. Chris, what you working on?
I've been doing some heavy maintenance on the Mercedes, which, yeah, I know. Mental's pretty excited. I'm going slow, taking my time. Haven't done ever that much work on this car because it's never really needed it. So, but now I've got a lot of the top end of the motor apart right now. So things are looking good so far. I got to say, with 150,000 miles, once the valve covers are off, the inside of that motor is spotless. Like it doesn't even have that like yellowy tinge that a lot of the that they get. It's still nice and clean and pretty.
Standing.
It's good. Yeah. I'm using
And the
specialty.
I was going to say, the top of the motor is apart for what job?
Well, it needed intake manifold gaskets. That's the only thing it really needed. After that, it's one of those, well, I'm in there. And the two problems the M156 AMG motor has is occasionally a small percentage of them will crack the top off one of their head bolts. So you got to replace those. And the trick for when the motor is totally fine, which this one is you do them one bolt at a time. So never really break the head seal. You keep it all on there, keep it together. But you do have to pull the cams to do that. And once the cams are out, the other thing that occasionally happens on these is that the lifter buckets wear out. Like they get some wear on the top of them and you replace those. So while the cams are off, it's right there. It's getting all 32 new lifters too. So, but to do all this stuff, you got to drain the coolant all the way out, including draining the block, which has these little, because this Mercedes has these nice block drain ports, but they're kind of hard to access, and the car's not all far off the ground right now. And anyway, it's coming along. It's slow, but it's good.
That's it. That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep on the top.
Yep, we'll get it done though. It's fine. Everything else looks great. Fresh oil change, sending the oil out to Blackstone for another analysis because they do it every time, but it's always fine. And and there's some new brake pads going on and new tires and good to go. Send it.
So, Mental, what are you doing other than waiting for the Mercedes to be done? I'm sorry, Chris, did you have somewhere to go?
I just also enjoyed watching the Patriots beat the Eagles, Jeff.
I was trying to get you to skip that.
Yeah, thanks.
I was just trying to cut that off.
Yeah, it's fine.
So after winning, that's right,
What?
winning the Texas World of Texas
Bullshit.
Lemons Rally.
Suckers.
We did. We got random access to Pinity. Mostly, and Steve said because the videos made him laugh. And I'm working on right now. I've got to get all of the Florida Man or the Florida Steak videos edited and sent to Eric Rude so they can use that for their social media. And those.
I love the car sales ones.
What about the reading from the 1987 Motor Trend automotive yearbook?
The one at the Cadillac Ranch, you needed like a fluffier thing over your microphone. It was like
I did. Oh yeah,
like-
we were having it. If I had that cool thing you had at SEMA, we absolutely
Yeah.
done it.
It was funny
So-
the first time, and then
All right, fair
kinda
enough.
lost the joke.
So we did win that, and then it was air show weekend. So I got back home Thursday night. Saturday was catch up at work day while everybody was at the air show, and then Sunday I worked the air shows. Our followers on social media saw a brief interlude where they had a mock dog fight between an F-35 and a pair of F-16s. Sunday after the air show, yeah, exactly. I think we know how that one plays out. Sunday after the air show, I ran the Las Vegas Marathon. An embarrassingly slow time, but I did finish it. And tomorrow, I leave also for Phoenix because I'll be instructing with extreme experience this Friday and Saturday. Now, what I specifically was working on today is I had to go collect my medical records, and I've got to track down one more sheet of paper. And I am working currently with NASA and AAR to go ahead and firm up my competition license. Why? Why, Mental? Why do you need your competition license? Because
so you can have it. Give it to the police when you get pulled over.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. On Tuesday, I got offered a seat for the 25 hours at Thunderhill.
Ooh. Totally jelly.
Cool.
So it is dependent on me getting this license resolved and the car coming together because it's a bit of a last-minute effort. It is not going to be competitive. The call was, hey, this guy really likes racing. He wants people that are going to do their part, turn a wrench, clean, whatever they got to do, but understands that at the end of the day, it's all about having fun.
Sounds about up our alley.
What kind of car will this be?
Spec E46.
Boring.
Not in Thunderhill.
No.
Well, the Thunder
that's
Sleeve,
awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
Hey, news and notes time other than Mental has a new ride. Hey, guys. Remember when our fellow Lemons racer got his hella butt crashed Integra stolen?
Why the hell did anybody do that?
Seriously, what the hell?
Well, he got it back.
Good.
So Fritz Dahlin, our buddy, remember his car went straight into the Armco over there in Connecticut. He posted up on the Citrus Racer Lounge just earlier today, I believe. So not only did my oldest son get married this past weekend, but the Howard County Police, no idea where Howard County is, found the Integra. It was sitting in the parking lot on Route 1, totally intact. Anybody need any Honda Acura 4-lug 16x7 wheels and tires or a B18C with a 5-speed? Contact them on Citrus Racer Lounge. And yes, someone already said, "Can I have the brakes?" And he said,
Aww.
I feel like this could have gone one of two ways. Where the thieves are like, oh, this could be great, man. Our EF hatch is gonna be so cool, and then somebody else goes, dude, the car you stole is all over the interwebs. It's hot, man. It's a race car. Dude's got a posse. Or it was just one of those things where they showed up to their fence and the guy goes, what the hell am I going to do with this piece of shit? Get this thing out.
I think it was that. Or like Gone in 60 Seconds, the guy steals the car and everyone's like, what the hell did you steal this thing for? This is a terrible idea. Put it back. Put it back. Yeah.
Who else got news?
In other actual racing news, Lucky Dog Racing League is now in bed with Skip Barber. There's some terrible joke here that I'm not drunk enough to make.
He's dead. Isn't he?
No, he's still alive. He just doesn't own Skip Barber anymore, or he owns still.
When he was running it, it was still profitable. Yeah.
Yeah. So as Lucky Dog Racing League, powered by Henko Competition, celebrates the start of its 6th season, we're focused more than ever on providing our membership with amazing value and awesome benefits, especially for safety and racecraft. We're excited now. Skip Barber is now the official racing school of Lucky Dog Racing League. So anyway, the whole point is they get 15% discount using the code LUCKY2019 to register, and you can enroll by calling or going to skipbarber.com. So, hey, I'm a graduate of Skip Barber. It was great. I enjoyed it. It was a long time ago, but it helped get me started. And I'm not terrible. There's that.
Yeah, before Skip Barber sold it, it was a great school.
Yeah. I crashed a Formula Dodge really, really hard into the wall at Lime Rock and tore the entire side off of it. And that was when you still didn't have to pay for damage. So you're welcome.
Very nice.
Supposedly the new owners are running the exact same curriculum.
Oh yeah, it was all their top instructors. They just got rid of the idiots managing it because it's a highly recommended good school. Mm-hmm. They took over the Pano school at Road Atlanta. And people that went enjoyed it.
Supposedly, depending on your skill level and what course you do, you can also get your SCCA comp license that way too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you take the right one, because they got the 3-day, the 4-day, the 12-day, the screwed up your butt day. I don't know. So, boys.
What kind of college do you work at that's a holiday?
So,
it's New Jersey.
boys, it's very important. Did you know the world is about to end?
I did, and I knew it, and I was actually typing up a similarly snarky thing, but yours is way better.
So if you didn't know the world was about to end, it's because you haven't been on a Mustang forum, because the next thing was announced by Ford, and it is the Mustang Mach-E.
Or the interwebs at all, ever.
At all. Yeah, yes, it is an SUV. Yes, it is an electric. And yes, it will still do burnouts and run over pedestrians after a Cars and Coffee event.
You just won't be coming this time.
You just won't hear it. Exactly. The best thing about the launch actually was written in Jalopnik by our good friend Bradley Brownell. It seems that someone at Ford pushed the wrong button, and they're all pissed off about it, but the configurator website went live before they actually said the official release of the specs. So you could go onto the Ford website and configure it and price it and figure everything you wanted before they had like the big pull the cover off of it launch.
So Ford broke their own embargo.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Basically. And then yelled at Bradley according to his editorial comments.
Whatever. Yeah, it's not the first time that's happened to him.
I have enjoyed all the graphics of the very fat pony on the front of the Mustang logo. That's good.
Aside from the name, as an electric vehicle, it's actually I don't think it's unattractive. I think it's a pretty car. The numbers are looking pretty impressive on it, and it fell off of our news because we ran out of news. Ford actually has the largest supercharger network. They actually beat Tesla. They've got more I don't think they call it superchargers, but whatever their fast chargers are. Ford has more fast chargers for electric vehicles than Tesla.
Well, I think they're just on the general broader network of charging system, whereas Tesla has their own proprietary network that only Teslas can use, and that's so
one of the reasons you buy a Tesla, because you're buying
it. It's worked out so well for Sony whenever they did their own thing, like Beta and Mini Disc and their own memory sticks.
Well, for every Sony, there's also an Apple where idiots continue to buy into the. I don't mean you guys. I don't really continue to buy into the system just because your phone. Oh, my phone works better with my computer. Yeah, whatever.
Wow, someone's butthurt. Anyway,
that's as bitter as I've ever heard Jeff. Wow, that's
I know. Let's having a good time.
It's mental.
It's all jokes.
Speaking of bitter, the last C7 Corvette has finally left Bowling Green.
Well done.
According to Brandon Gileology over at Haggerty, this particular car, a black Z06 with a 7-speed manual, Dale be praised, was sold at Barrett Jackson more than 4 months ago. Bought $2.7 million at auction as part of GM's work with the Stevens Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation that helps fallen first responders, injured service members, and Gold Star families. So this is it. Now they're done with the C7s. They can start the C8s, which is all was resolved. They tried to blame on a UAW strike, but whatever. Wonk, wonk, wonk. Link to that story is going to be in our show notes. And also, since Chrissy isn't here, Ken Block is at it again. This time he's up in China where the 914 horsepower Hoon truck was on China's most dangerous road, Tiananmen Mountain. The link of the video will be in our notes. And if you've enjoyed Ken Block's past stuff, you're going to like this one. And if you haven't enjoyed anything Ken Block has done, you're not going to like this one. It's not going to change any minds, but it's the same gorgeous drone footage, the great in-car stuff. There's one very neat Panda in there. So watch the video. Let us know what you think.
I think they should have done something other than a 70s truck. This thing is a tube frame monster, but why just drop like a 71 F-150 over it? There's so many cooler things you could have put over this than an old pick-em-up truck.
The question
now, knowing that he's partnered with Ford and it was built on the new Ford GT chassis, this is a great discussion. What would you put on there, Chris?
A boat.
How about a Ford GT?
No, you're right. Totally boat.
A boat.
It's a shame we still don't. It's a shame we don't have the boat. We could totally make our own Hoon boat videos.
A van, like a van, is funnier. Like with a roof rack.
That sexy van. You're absolutely right.
Right. There's
conversion van.
Yeah.
Captain seats everywhere.
Like make
All
it
right,
even.
Kent, if you're listening, get to work.
There's definitely something better than that old, even like an older pick 'em up truck, like something from the 40s or something. That would have been cooler. Or I don't know. There's I'm over that thing because it's unoriginal.
Look, I'm over the videos themselves, but I'll watch it and I'll enjoy it. It's worth the 12. Yeah, it's worth the 12 minutes of my time, but it's not good. Like I'm not like it's out. I gotta go click it like right now. You know what I mean?
No. It is. And this one's 8 minutes. And it's I'm especially after watching the series on Netflix, I'm genuinely impressed with it's Brian Scroto, his photography director.
Don't know.
I know.
Didn't watch it.
The same thing. Anyway,
check off. Mental talks about something no one cares about. Check.
Not interested enough to watch the behind the scenes.
Let's go to stuff people do care about. So Champ Car is coming up at Barber in Alabama. 63 cars, 18 BMWs.
Boring.
14 Miatas, 3 Hondas, 4 P cars, and a PT Cruiser Turbo. Guys, nice. Good luck. You're going to have a great time. That is just a great course.
Absolutely.
World Racing League will be hosting their season ender. It is, November 20th, so this will be this weekend coming up. So a little earlier than some of the other leagues. Mm-hmm. But the World Endurance Championships at the Circuits of Americas Friday, also an HPDE. Ooh, so they're doing HPDE on Friday, mm-hmm. and then their season ender over the weekend. There is 100 cars at the WRL season ender, 35 of which are BMWs.
Boring. It's a third of the field.
Yeah. 15 Miatas, 2 Hondas, 12 Porsches, and 1 lone Pontiac Dale be praised Firebird.
How does a race in Texas only have one Firebird?
I know. How's there only one Firebird?
I feel like at the last minute, like the WRL stuff went, hold on a second, there's something wrong with this list. And they just had to call somebody local. Dude, bring the Firebird. This is Texas.
Well, I mean, Firebird isn't even the right one. They need the Camaro, spelled with an E.
This Firebird can work. Or a Trans Am.
That's Atlanta. Trans Am, yeah, it's the
Hell yeah.
Right. And in recent past races, AER was at pit race this past weekend with 26 cars in the cold on a 2.8-mile track. Overall winner of the fastest class was, the team name is Z3 4-banger. They did not have a Z3 4-banger. They had a 944 of some sort. I don't know what was in said 944, but it was fast. The stuff it beat was stuff like, there's 5 cars in the fastest class. There was a 944, an E46 M3, an BMW M235IR. That's like a $200,000 factory racer.
Yes,
and
seriously.
A 996. Yes. And they're beating this with a 944. Something's different about that one. That's not your normal.
Whatever the German equivalent of Dale Earnhardt is, praise be to him.
It probably has an LS in it or something. Saw some of the in-car video this weekend. It looked a lot like the last session of an HPDE weekend, because there was nobody on the track. They're just driving around completely by themselves. Occasionally they forget someone and they race a little bit and they go by them and then they're back to being completely by themselves. It's sad. I wish they'd get
26 cars is low for a regular race, but AER is limiting their stuff to below 50 usually.
Well,
so
I think it's
to them
based
it's
on the
not
length
as
of the
tragic.
track. The length of the track. This is a 2.8 mile long track. You
don't
see anybody
long.
On pit. It's not like you're at Thompson where 26 cars. At least you can see somebody once in a while. Anyway, it's sad. I wish they'd get more turnout.
For those of you who haven't,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, those of you who have never raced on Pittsburgh, you actually don't see the other segments of the track from the segment that you're on. So it's not like even like in New Hampshire where you can see up the hill or through the bowl or anything like that. You only really see 2 or 3 turns at a time.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't been there, because I made the mistake of not being there in 5 years, so I missed all the expansion. It's still a great facility.
Mm-hmm. So you should come this summer. We do our HPD weekend in July.
I'm going to give my level best. I feel like also a lot of the AER teams, because for years their traditional end of the season was always Mid-Ohio, and I still feel like a lot of their bigger competitors, Dan Sykes, all those guys, because it's not that big of a drive.
Big Red was there.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But a lot of their more just rabid competitors in AR just. They it's I've done cold. Mid-Ohio. I'm gonna put the car away. Yeah, it's cold.
Pittsburgh
it's
in the middle of November. Yeah. It's cold. Yeah. So anyway, oh well.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, I'll say, before we get into that, who's never on a track by themselves, lonely? Chrissy's mom. Hi, Chrissy's mom.
Because she has cookies. She just stands there.
Exactly. She has cookies.
Friends.
Stands on the track. Awesome. Right. Main topic time. Notice we are skipping the advertiser section this week. The reason we are is because we're working on new advertisers from SEMA. So if you want to advertise with our group, come on over, call us, email us, whatever you need to do. But we will have rolling out some new advertisers after
we work fairly
SEMA.
cheap.
We do. We're
you have
pretty
no
much
idea.
just give us stuff. Hey,
like
we got a baseball hat and a T-shirt and a sticker. Oh, okay.
Awesome.
Main topic time. I feel like I almost don't even need to intro this because it's part 2 of last week.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you didn't
Chris,
listen to last week, go back and do that now. Last week, you need to go there. Listen to that because that's the first half of this whole discussion. So this week, we're going to move on to some more advanced situations and cornering and how they impacts your strategy through the corner. So you're going to go through it a little differently than you would a standard textbook corner. Really, this is the level 102. So sorry, Bill. Go back and listen to it.
But we know Bill listen.
Yes,
we do.
I know.
And we also have this is the second half of part 4 in our Going Faster series, and we've got the links to the 3 previous ones in our show notes.
Yes, we do, absolutely. We originally thought this might be a 4 or 5 part series. Right now, we're going on part 2 of part 4, and we're not done yet, so we're just going to keep going, see how it goes. It'll end someday. Maybe.
Sure.
Whatever.
Sure.
So,
all right, so we're talking about cornering.
Yeah, we got 6 or 7 topics we're going to talk about cornering and how they impact what you're doing. So the first one I'm going to cover is elevation changes and how that impacts your grip and how that impacts your cornering. And really, this is all about contact patch and weight transfer.
I love this.
And exactly. Elevation changes make a fun track. Like if I think of some of the most fun tracks I've driven on, like
pit race.
Like Pit Race, like Laguna Seca, like the Ridge, like Sonoma,
Atlanta.
Right? Atlanta, like exactly. All of those feature big elevation changes because it makes a track interesting. So, and that like even tracks that are boring, like Lightning at New Jersey. The only interesting part is the tiny bit of elevation changes. Right? That's
exactly. Go back to last week. We talked about that.
Exactly. So you need to think back to contact patch and weight transfer. Think about your tire like a Nerf ball on a table. If it's sitting on the table, it has a very small contact patch with it. You start pushing it down, the contact patch grows. The harder you push, the more the patch expands and the more grip you have. So that's what hills do, is they're changing the contact patch of your tire and therefore the grip. So when you're going up a hill, it's loading your suspension. You're going to have more grip. Same as if you're bottoming out on a hill, you've got more grip. If you're going down a hill or you're cresting, you have less grip. Or I guess just anywhere you're getting to the top, you now have less grip because your tires are not pushing into the ground as hard. So knowing this, use it to your advantage to do more turning when you do have the grip, or use higher speed at the section where you have the grip. Just do something to take advantage of it, and then ease off when you're turning, or use it to rotate when you have a limited grip section. So this might cause you to take an exaggerated early or late apex, depending on the curve that you're in. So let's use some examples. The uphill at New Hampshire. This is you're on the NASCAR circuit. You go to the inside slightly to then cross the NASCAR circuit. And as soon as you do, you hit a pretty significant pronounced uphill. It's not gradual. You hit it.
Yep.
So when you do this, you kind of find yourself understeering into the uphill. And as soon as you hit it, you've got all your traction back. So the way you can take that is really do a later apex on that corner. Like line yourself up for later apex, except that you're going to start sliding wide. And then it's okay because you have all the traction once you hit the hill, and you can go right up it after that. So use that traction to your advantage.
I'm going to be talking about going offline in a minute, and that is a great discussion about this because that hill becomes a passing zone because exactly what Chris said. You can go the non-traditional line and really end up with way more grip in the second half of that turn.
That corner also has the anomaly of that the inside is really polished because the track's old, and the outside is not. So anything less than stellar conditions, there's actually potentially more grip toward the outside. But that's a different conversation for a different day. So another example, we keep talking about turn 5 at New Jersey Lightning, just because it's the only interesting course there, the corner there. That's a corner. You're as you come into the corner, you're going up the hill. As soon as you're at the top, you've got to be done turning. So you need to have a late apex on that so that you're not tracking out like you would normally. So if you just laid it down on a flat, your line would look like a late apex because you have to turn early. You have to get the cornering done because as you crest that hill, you're going to float wide if you're going fast enough. So use that float to your advantage because there's a lot of room over there, but you have to have your turning done so that you can get on the gas as you float over the top. And that's a little straight there, so you get a lot better speed out of the corner if you get your turning done early. And if you listened last week, you'll know how to set up for that corner because Jeff told you how you got to give up corners 3 and 4 to make 5 work. So there's a good example there. The top of the hill at Sonoma, I think that's turn like 3, I think it is. So you come down the straight, you'd have that little bend to the left, you go up the really steep hill, and at the top, you go right. And not only is it off camber, but it's at the crest of a hill. There's cars going off to the left there constantly because they come up to the top of the hill and they turn in and they have some grip because they're still going up. And then as soon as they get to the top, they lose it all and they just go off wide into the grass. So
yes,
you've got to treat that one like we're talking about with New Hampshire. Actually, or turn 5 at Lightning, same kind of thing. Get your turning done early while you're still have your compression on your suspension, so that when you get to the top and you lose that compression, most of your turning is done. So it would look like a late apex line if you didn't have the traction issues. And the last one I'll go for is the corkscrew at Laguna Seca. That first turn to the left that you make, where you can't see anything, has to be very aggressive and quick. Like you come up and you saw the wheel to the left practically because you still have some traction because you're only just starting to go downhill. But then you have to immediately saw the wheel back to the right to get going straight again because the ground is falling out from under you. And once you've done that saw back to the right, you down the big dip of the hill, but then as soon as you're at the bottom, you've got to turn again to get yourself set up for the next corner. And that's actually the most interesting corner of Laguna Seca, is the end of the corkscrew into the next 2 corners. But it's all because you set yourself up through the corkscrew, lose your stomach as you go over the hill, and then use the traction again on the other side. So
yeah, it's almost like New Hampshire up the hill and Laguna down the hill are exact opposites. I mean, obviously going up and down, but the way that you prepare for them obviously are absolutely reversed because the way the traction goes in the turn is reversed.
Yep.
Like that's really how you need to think about it.
Exactly.
I love what you said. Turn where the traction is.
Yeah. And this exact same argument applies to banking too. Anytime you have a choice between banking and not banking, you need to see if going on the banking is going to give you enough of an advantage to do it compared to going elsewhere. And later on, we're going to talk about speed versus distance, and this is where this usually comes into play. But I'll use the example of Thompson. The corner in the old Speedway has a very wide entrance at the top of it. You can either stay up high, use the banking to make your turn, and then go through the corner that way, or you stay in tight to the right and take an inside line, which is basically flat, and come out the other side. One is much further to go. One is much shorter. One has banking, though, and I've done some testing there, and I found that if you stay up high on the banking and turn really hard when you're on the banking, and then as soon as that also brings you down to the bottom of the kind of the apron where your suspension bottoms out, but then it kind of bounces up. So you have to get all your turning, or a lot of your turning, done when you're on the banking and at the bottom, and then ease off on your wheel to be able to make it around the rest of the corner. So
yeah, it's kind of like you're steering into the bottom of the hole.
Yeah.
Like you go up the hill, like imagine like a skateboarder who's in a pool.
Yep.
Like you go up the hill to turn there and kind of aim right for the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. But then you use that to your advantage because that's where you're compressing your suspension. You're pushing down on that ball. You've got more traction. So if you can, do it. But sometimes you can't You just got to go offline. You got to go where you're going to go in traffic. Right, Jeff?
Yeah. So I'll talk about driving in traffic because unless you're at Pittsburgh in AER and only have 35 cars, you're probably going to be driving in traffic. The endurance racing that we do, if you're at the 100-plus World Racing League or 120 on a Lemons course, traffic is just a reality of endurance racing. And there's a great line from Ford versus Ferrari when Ken Miles is looking and he tells his son, "Do you see the perfect lap? It's out there.
Do you see it?
Do you see it?
Yeah.
The perfect lap. It's out there." Well, that mother humpa has never been on a 120 course, 120 car Lemons field with limos and Citroens and freaking great gobs of Buick, whatever the heck. Traffic is just a reality 99% of the time. So perfect lap isn't what you're looking for. Traffic management is. So here's the deal. You need to know everything that your car can do both on and off the line. You need to know where your car, how much grip it's going to have, when it's going to push, what's going to happen if I early apex, what's going to happen if I late, what if I go later and miss the apex, how much can I over brake. So knowing what kind of grip is where, just like Chris was talking about, and where the problems are on the surface is critical to this skill, because you're going to go over the same spots again and again and again. That one time you have to go somewhere else. What's the pavement like? Are the gators too harsh? Are there holes that you're going to drop off of? By the way, there are usually big holes on the outside of where the bad drivers early apex because they push wide and they go off the track, so they hit the dirt at the same spot all the time.
Or
so
the Miata lines where they do it in the wet.
Exactly.
They do it in the wet and they dig holes in the dirt.
Exactly. So you really need to know where these holes and divots and crags and funny surfaces are.
Yeah. Otherwise, you hit them and your teammates have to fix splitters and stuff like that. So.
Just once. Look, you screw a goat.
Once is all it takes. just one goat.
And you're a splitter bender for the rest of your life. No, but this is the key to the traffic management. It's making the turns around the competitor. So you need to know where the physics are going to push them and how do you manage the turn to end up in a different spot to either pass them during the turn or on the exit of the turn. So offline drills at an HPDE are how you're going to learn this. If you go to an HPDE, hopefully they do offline drills and do it again and again and again. Chris, go ahead.
Or do it yourself in testing day.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just, you're out there in testing day. Yeah, once you've done 5 laps, you have a pretty good idea where the course goes. Try figuring out what happens if I late apex. Like late apex every single corner, like wicked late. See what happens.
Yeah.
Early apex, everyone. See what happens. See where are you in the marbles? Where do you actually have some traction? Where is it kind of scary to do that? Know that going in so you can know when you're in traffic. Mental.
Yeah.
And if you're an instructor, get your student. If you've got a student that's really coming along, but you don't want to sign them up to the next run group, that's kind of that next level education where you can keep them entertained, and even not even a early apex or a late, have them hit the apex where they're supposed to hit it, but in the wrong position on the track. Hey, no, you can't get over there. There's a car there. Kind of a deal, and start introducing those mental gymnastics. And if you're in a run group on a track day where you're doing it by yourself, do it yourself. Just do it at a slightly lower speed so you don't wad your car up.
Yeah.
Everyone racers told me to drive off the line. No, we told you to experiment at lower speed.
Sure, it wasn't everyone racers. It was mental that told you to drive.
No, but
and that's
here's
what you
the
get
thing.
to listen to a guy called Mental.
Yeah.
And if someone ever says, "Oh, we had contact, but I had the line," you were both wrong.
Yeah, you're both wrong.
Because managing traffic and passing in a heavy road course situation, you must be off the line of the person you're trying to pass. If they are running good lines but are slow, you need to run bad lines to make the pass. Mm-hmm. And bad line it means not perfect. I don't want to say that they're bad because, with last week's discussion of systems thinking, this is where it comes into play. Thinking about sections. Can I do turn A wrong so that I exit turn A at a different part of the track than Mr. Miata And so when we go into the straight, he isn't blocking my acceleration, and I can get by him in the short straight. And I can get by him quickly and cleanly, and now if I do the turn differently than he does. So this is where maybe you spend a little bit more grip or a little bit more brake than you normally will, or you take a section slower so that you can drop a gear and accelerate around the pass. So let's review. You need to know what your car does off the line. You need to know what the track is like off the line. You need to know how the other cars are going to take the turn. You need to know how they are going to react when you're off the line next to them. You need to know what the entire section looks like, because going offline and scrubbing too much speed just to watch Mr. Miata do a textbook line and he doesn't touch his brakes and he gets right back in front of you, that is worse than not trying to pass at all, because you slowed down. You might have gotten in his way. You wasted tire. You wasted brake. You wasted momentum, and you look like a fool. If the other competitors respect your ability to get around them off the line, they're not going to work hard trying to keep you behind them. And unless they don't like you, which is possible.
Or they're completely clueless, which happens.
Or they're clueless, which happens. But that's why I say you need to know, like, where is the physics going to take them? If this guy early apexes constantly and you know he's going to push wide, I go for a later apex. When he scrubs wide, I tuck in. And that's taking turns off the line. By the way, if your competitors don't like you, may I suggest buying more beer, better beer, and giving it out more frequently.
It's a good way to go.
Go over there. Yeah, go over there and help them rotate their tires, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that is not only has that gotten us very popular in the pits, but also we know who we point by or who we give a nice wide berth to or help somebody out.
Yeah, and I know Mental's going to get into this, and I'm going to talk about it in the dive bomber, but the person who gets around you cleanly, whether they are off the line or on the line, you never have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the best compliment you get as being one of the fast cars is you guys you come up and then you're gone. I don't worry about you. I barely even know you're there, and you just go away, and that's it.
Yeah. If you're stealing the line from them and they have to alter what they're doing, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you're the faster car.
Yeah, in a faster car.
Yeah.
Predict what they are going to do and put your car where they're not going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to climb on a soapbox right here, because we've had this discussion in the pits, and it's especially the nature of how we race is it's a lot of folks that are making that transition.
On the bingo card for this. Where is it?
Making the transition from track days to racing. Now, I will give you a point buy if I have the opportunity, but I'm also racing. And we could be in completely different classes. We're not racing for position, but I'm not obligated to give you a point buy. I'm racing my race, and I'm in my car. And if you're in a much faster car, it is your job to get cleanly around me. Don't sit there and get mad because I didn't give you a point buy. Not my job. If you want point buys, go back to track days. Go to time trials, because that's where they do point buys. Racing, you roll up on a pair of Dodge Darts that are battling it out for C class, which we've all done. And both those guys in those Dodge Darts are great teams and know how to race. Their cars are slow. They don't owe you a point. You figure out how to get around them and not screw them up.
And I like what you said, that getting by somebody, it's your problem to do it cleanly. Are you listening out there, Alan? If you pass someone and contact is made while you're passing them, it is your fault.
Yeah. Point buys are great for driver communication. Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Yeah.
There's driver communication. I feel like that's common courtesy. Like when I was driving slower cars more, if I had someone behind me that, they're faster, they're going to get by, that's fine. I want to have some control over the situation. I'll give them a point on the way into the corner so they know on the way out which side to go. It's safer and cleaner for everybody, but it's communication and courtesy. And then now being in a faster car, I appreciate that for the exact same reason, communication and courtesy. It's not owed. No one owes anyone any of that, except reasonable racing room and heads up. But if you can and you like to, hey, no one gets upset with point buys.
Hey, but sometimes you end up in that corner too wide, right, Mental?
Yeah. And when you do, yeah, it's tough. This
too wide doesn't bother me, but
3 wide gets a little fun. really, there's no way around this in a lot of the more popular rated races.
Oh.
Really,
I thought Mental was covering this. That's why I threw it to him. Sorry.
Yeah.
Chris, sometimes you get stuck too wide, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I haven't been read on the notes since we started this 113 episodes ago.
Jesus.
Rah, rah, rah. Anyway,
I'm drunk on grape ginger ale, by the way.
Yeah.
Even his non-purple drink is purple drink.
It's still purple drink. So when you're in a close pack, I just think use it to your advantage if you can. Remember, you're offline, but sometimes the other people are too, especially if you're actually going into the corner 2 wide or 3 wide. Everyone's offline. Find a way that you can use where you are in that pack to get an advantage of it. Like if you're forced to early apex, fine. Then break late and deep and set up for your exit. Maybe that'll get you ahead. If you're on the outside, like take that good wide sweeping line. Maybe you can get in the gas a little earlier and potentially be in the spot where the other car would be a track out. Or if you're in tight, maybe you're going to be right where they would apex, so they're not going to go through it quicker anyway too. So, if you're going to be forced to be on a certain side of the track or not, where you don't want to be, think about not just surviving it and just getting through it, but make it work for you instead of just riding it out.
Yeah, That's why you need to know what your car is going to do and what the track surface is like at every location.
Yeah. Yup. Okay.
So the dive bomb.
Yeah. So this is when you find yourself either suddenly going too wide when you did not expect to go too wide.
Let's talk about the dive bomber really quick. So don't you hate that guy, right? Here's the deal. If someone outbrakes you and then outturns you and then out accelerates you, they didn't dive bomb you. They got around you. Dive bombing is what we call the jerk who runs up, typically inside the turn, gets next to you because they're off the line, and then they have to slow like a lot because they're off the line, and they park it on the apex right where you were going. Or maybe just they cross the line where you were going. So now you must overbrake or take the turn off the line or overbrake and get behind them to follow the line that you intended. So they have attempted a pass by braking later and harder, and they have gotten in the way of your line. This is bad form. Does it
happen? Not to say we haven't done it once in a while.
Does it happen? Hell yes. Have I done it? Hell yes. Do I feel bad about it? Absolutely. Sometimes. But
there's certain teams where I don't feel bad because, damn it, if they just look in their mirrors and they'll be okay.
No, I know. Sometimes it's the only way to get by somebody. But it goes back to what I said before. You need to be considerate of others out there, or else they will work hard to not give a little. And if they choose not to give a little and you're dive bombing them, they can hold the line and cause problems or repass the dive bomber on the far side. And really, I don't defensively do anything different when I'm dive bombing other than protect my car and protect to not get the black flag. But usually they're going to overbrake. They're going to be in a wrong spot. They're going to push wide or whatever. If I keep up my momentum, I can repass them on the far side of the apex.
And it tends to be in aggressive cars that don't handle very well. And one of the best pieces I ever got from Big Sexy was if it's big and American and they don't have enough tire, I don't care how fast they are. They're never coming inside of me, ever. I will block the inside and I will point them to the outside because I'm not getting taken out by some guy who doesn't understand how well his car handles.
Yeah, and you can dive bomb from the outside too. Just they're usually not a problem because they're not stealing your apex.
Right. The way to make dive bombs go from dangerous and annoying to being okay or close-ish is when you're coming up next to somebody, even if you're not going to get by them before the turn-in, make sure that you're up next to them and slightly ahead of them at a point where they can see you before they would turn in. Like, you get to present yourself for that pass. It's just slightly ahead. Like, you're still kind of sort of dive bombing because you're getting in the way of their perfect line. But, okay, if you're doing it enough, though, that you're not creating a dangerous situation by just swooping in, that's much nicer etiquette.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Mental.
And Dr. Mom did that to me once. She was in the stupid fast tetanus 240Z, and she came into me on turn 3 at Barber, and she stuck her nose in there, and I called her every nasty name it was, and I talked to her afterwards, and she said, yeah, I thought about it, but I thought, you know what? It's mental. He knows I'm here. He'll let me get away with it. She was right. And if it had been anyone else, there would have been a wholly different conversation afterwards. And she had a faster car. She pulled away from me on that straight away.
They would have gotten a special point buy.
Yeah, special point by, baby.
No,
yeah.
I was in the Thunderbird. She'd have gotten a door slammed.
So, but this is where I'm talking about, like, if so you dive bombed. You're the dive bomber. You need to take care of the car that you're dive bombing by staying on that apex and hugging that inside until you're sure that there is enough room for you to start to come out. So you can still do this offline. This just goes back to an offline pass.
Mm-hmm.
And there are plenty of times where I know the person who's outside of me, and they know me well enough that we're going to go door handle to door handle, and it's not going to be a problem. It's when you don't know that person, or you overextend your brakes, or your tires aren't going to be able to hold up.
Or they're very erratic and don't know who's around them.
Exactly.
Those are the ones,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I told Chris the other day that I was driving my Mazda 3 and I blipped my throttle at somebody, because that's what I do in the Civic to kind of like make people know that I'm there.
Oh,
and I was
absolutely.
and I was trying to get by a guy in my absolutely bone stock Mazda 3 in fourth gear at 75 miles an hour, and I kind of like blipped it. And he can't hear me.
No.
It's a Mazda 3. It's like not.
I made that same mistake in the Volvo wagon, and I think the NPR blaring at the windows is louder than the exhaust.
Yeah. So anyway, just know that if you're the dive bomber, or if you're getting dive bombed, this is a partnership between you and the people who are being dive bombed or dive bombing. Everybody get through the turn together. Accelerate out. If they beat you, you suck. You lose. Just keep going. But if you beat them, just keep going. But you got to leave them room.
The way this whole topic thing worked out, there's going to be a whole lot of mental, so I apologize right now.
All right,
so
do me a favor, though. 1 more inch away from the microphone.
Okay. You two guys just jump in.
Much better.
I start sounding stupid.
That's good.
Now, what we're going to talk about
so I'll jump in here. No. Sorry.
We're going to talk about using the brakes and the throttle to turn. And you're going to hear me say this phrase several times. When you get to that next level
of racing, creeping up on the mic again, everybody. Can you hear it?
When you get to that next level of racing, you recognize that you're not just brake, turn, accelerate. You've moved on to that. And what you're doing is you are managing energy and weight. And your throttle and your brakes now become devices to control the direction and the mass of that automobile. So we're going to talk about brakes. How do you use brakes to help you turn? The easiest part of that is it's called trail braking. And if you remember last week when we talked about the traction circle, this is maximizing the grip of your 4 tires as you're coming into the corner. So you are transitioning from the brakes, and the car's not necessarily going in a straight line. It's already started to enter, but as these tires are braking, they're also turning, which is helping you slow the car. You are absolutely at the edge of that traction circle, so you should enter into these experiments very, very carefully. And when you are dive bombing, that is not the time to do it. The time to do it is when you've got clear track or you're at an HPDE. So you're coming into the corner and you were left foot braking or using the brake and the throttle at the same time. And rather than off the brakes, turn on the gas, now it is kind of a turn while I'm in the brakes, start rolling into the gas, then I'm pulling out of the wheel. Take those 3 steps that you learned how to get into a corner and think of them as starting to overlap. So the catch to this is it's really, really hard to master because it's not a one-size-fits-all process, and it varies from turn to turn, from car to car, from lap to lap, depending on the temperatures of your tires and the ambient temperature on there. So traditional threshold braking corner, you are at the absolute ragged edge of your grip, and rather than just jump your foot off the brake, you want to melt off the brakes. Just slowly pull that foot off the brake pedal. And you've got to study this only after you have the basics. Now, lots of folks, when they're out there driving, they've got their brains on fire because they're just going into these corners at full speed. But once you kind of got that down, you catch yourself starting to talk and you're starting to make remarks about the other thing. This is when you start devoting those extra mental reserves, pun intended, to assess your technique with braking, your downshifting, and turning as you're coming in there. But the key to this is your brake release. You can't just jump your foot off there. You've got to roll it off very, very smoothly. And that's going to be relative to how fast you're going, car setup, brakes, all that sort of stuff. Chris, what do you got?
Sometimes you do that on purpose. Like if it's a great way to help a car rotate, especially a front drive car that might not be really good at that. Things like popping off the brake is a great way to get the car rotating. And as it starts to rotate, you're going back to the gas, and then you're getting on the gas earlier. So it's like a different way of trail braking. Like, so you can trail brake, get all the weight in the nose, make the car stand on, like if you're turning right, make it stand on that left front tire. And then the back starts to come around because the back wheels are trying to slow down, but they have no traction left because, like we talked about,
all the Nerf balls
contact patch. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The back Nerf balls, like they're barely touching. So they're trying to brake, so they're slowing down, and they're trying to corner, so they start to go around. Or then you can do the pop off the brake thing. If you're already in there, you pop off the brake, it upsets the balance of the car, but it's just enough to kind of kick it sometimes. And that can get you started around that corner before you get back in the gas.
Man, I'm flashing back to know what your car is going to do at any spot of the track when you do anything to it.
And how do you get to the point where you know what your car is going to do at any spot in the track?
You try things.
Practice, practice, practice.
Exactly. Practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? So we're doing this.
Well, you take a left on Broadway and then...
Chris, that is a great transition because how do you use the gas to do the same thing? So this is where we're really going to get into the front-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive differences. You guys have seen drifting, and if you haven't, go click on that the Ken Block link that we got at the beginning of the show, and that's drifting. You are no longer using the steering wheel to steer the car; you're using a throttle. That's really easy to do in a rear-wheel drive car.
If it has enough power.
If it has enough power.
Sure.
Impossible to do in a front-wheel drive car, but that's not to say that you still can't control the direction of the car with the throttle. So we just said this. You are a weight and energy manager. So you could use the brakes, but I tend to use the throttle as a weight management device. Go back to that Nerf ball discussion. Yeah. Straight line. You jab at that throttle, the biggest Nerf balls are in the back of the car. Now, you get into these medium to low horsepower stuff, or an ill handling car. This past weekend, I was in a Miata. They were not ill handling. Both those cars were actually really well set up. But you could not come into those corners at max smash, stab on the brakes, and then expect to get around that corner quickly. You had to just brush on the brakes, get the car pitched into that corner, and then you were on the throttle and walking it out to maintain the momentum as you're coming out of that. Now, a lot of folks will use the brakes to stab it there, get those big Nerf balls up front, and then it's going to rotate the car in the middle of this corner, which is exactly what Chris just talked about with that pop-off braking technique. You can also do it with a throttle. So as you come into the corner, if it's a high-speed corner where you don't want to touch the brakes, take your foot off the throttle and then back to the same position, and that's going to get the rear end to do the exact same thing, kind of rotate a little bit. And this is not something you want to experiment with if you're still struggling with where the apex is or if you're in somebody else's car. But you can experiment with what lifting of the throttle does to the rear of the car and how you settle it back with the throttle.
Don't do this in an early 911, by the way.
No.
Or a rear-edge Wartburg.
Yeah, or a Wartburg. But what that's going to do is lifting out the throttle is going to put the big Nerf balls back up at the front of that car and start bringing in the rear end around. And putting the throttle back on there gets the Nerf balls back in the car, and that's going to get you back on the track. You can also use this if you turn too early, you've turned too late. You can use the throttle and the brake to rotate the rear end of that car and get it pointed in the direction that it needs to be and go there. One of my favorite things about the new Honda with this new power plant is how easy it is to accelerate out of a corner. And I've got the steering input, but the steering input is really just a suggestion. I just mash the throttle, and it's going to take me exactly where I want to go. And I'm doing it all with gas as I exit out of those corners. And it is glorious. Yes, Chris.
steady state cornering can also be very significantly adjusted with a throttle too. Like if you're in a long sweeper and you find you're running a little wide, just back off a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit, and you'd be amazed at how much it tightens the line up for you. Try this on an off ramp, especially in a car that's not particularly good at handling, and you're like half like you're at 5/10 on it. Like I do this in my Suburban with the big chunky tires on it. Go around an off ramp, keep even steering angle, and try rolling on and off the gas and seeing how it affects your line. It's amazing. Also, if you have a limited slip, makes a big difference too. I've been in front wheel drive cars where you could be understeering, and if you mat the gas, all of a sudden it tucks in because the diff is doing its job.
Yeah,
that's true. That's a good one. So exactly what he's just talking about. So you're increasing your throttle input, you're unweighing the nose, or you're off the throttle and it's inducing weight on the nose, understeer and oversteer, correcting your steering wheel input using that throttle. Now, in every one of those cases, front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, you do want an optimal car setup. And actually a Suburban is a really good experiment because it's very forgiving and you'll hear the tires making all kinds of noise.
You feel the weight transfer, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's no video of my Suburban drifting around a racetrack, but it's not even mine anymore. Yeah. This is the key point to this is not a step-by-step process. Before I get into this, Jeff, you're very excited.
I was just going to say, this is why we talk about going out there in a Miata. In a bone stock, whatever, 90 horsepower original springs Miata to really learn car control, because when you get those springs really tight, you're not going to feel the weight transfer as much.
Stockish,
it still transfers.
Yeah, stockish, lower power, not the grippiest tires. You're going to learn so much.
So much.
Like when Bill and I had his 86 out at pit race at HPD.
Yeah, another great car.
So much of a better choice to learn in than our Honda, because the Honda masks everything you do right up until it bites you for doing something wrong. Where the 86 just kind of rolled with it, but you can feel it literally rolled with it. You feel exactly what it's doing everywhere it goes, and that teaches you what's going on underneath you.
Absolutely, and that's all an excellent point. So understand how all that comes into, and these just little slight adjustments while you're driving the street. Don't do anything radical on the street, but you can start feeling the car move around. Where was I? I was talking about weight input.
We totally interrupted you.
No, I told you guys to do that. Acute corners. So Jeff talked all about this last week, and I really feel like it's a good thing. We're going to talk about single versus double apex, like hairpin corners, really, really sharp stuff, or like 290s that feel like different corners, but maybe they're not. And I'm just going to almost directly quote from Ross Bentley. The faster the corner, the closer to the geometric line you should drive in order to maintain the most speed through the turn. Now, conversely, the slower the corner, the more you need to alter your line with a later apex. And then doing this allows the driver to set up for the fast acceleration on the exit. My best example of this are turn 6 and 7 at Road Atlanta. Now, turn 6, it's the 290s at the end of, as you're coming out of the dip, out of the S's and 5, and you're getting set up to go on the back straightaway.
Yeah.
Turn 6 is almost a standard late apex, banked, 90 degree. You wave at the flag stand as you go by and clip those curbings. And it tracks you all the way back out to the exit of the curbing. And this is a really nice, but a lot of people think of that whole thing as turn 7 is 290 degrees. Turn 7 is about 110 degrees. It's unbanked. And everybody gets into trouble right there. You can see in the mud on the outside of turn 7 where everybody's gone out too far because they're trying to take it like turn 6. It's a much sharper corner. So you're going to have to go a little bit slower, and the later you can apex 7, the better off you are. In fact, if you think you're turning in too late, you're probably turning in just right.
Why?
And that sets you out because you're straightening that sharp corner as much as possible, and you're turning the next straightaway, and you're on the gas earlier.
Bingo.
You're on the gas.
That's what I was trying to get you to say.
Yeah.
Yes. And I use this all the time when I'm instructing. The great dirty secret about road racers, because we like to think that we're elitist, wonderful people, is road racing is just a series of drag races connected by corners. And if you win the most drag races, you win the lap. And if you win the most laps, you win the race.
You have to win some of those corners too.
You got to win those corners.
Yeah.
And but the person who can get on the gas faster is going to accelerate sooner. So those acute corners of those double apexes, recognize that you're going to have to come into them slower, turn in later, and get on that gas sooner.
Yeah, like I can think of a lot of corners where this is a good example, like Laguna Seca turn 2. That's that hard hairpin at the end of the straight.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right after you go into the bridge. So there's that. Thompson, like half the corners at Thompson, but like particularly turn 4, like the right-hander. It's the tightest right-hander that's off camber and downhill that you go so slowly to right.
The drifting course before you get to the bridge. Yeah,
exactly. So there's that. Even Sonoma, like once you've gone through the bowl and you're coming down to like the corner where NASCAR has a different corner than we do. I forget the number before you get into the S's in the back. There's 2 turns there that you got to kind of link together the same way. That works too. So, but if you take it as the double, most of the time you don't want to do the double apex. You want to get your speed out of it, or you want to carry your speed into it, and then have a bad line, a quote unquote bad line out of it because you're carrying your speed into it. So it's where do you want the speed? Do you want the speed on the way in, or do you want it on the way out?
That's great. That's a great way.
It actually is. And that go back and listen to Jeff's explanation last week because it was good.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've been trying to talk about, the systems thinking of the track. You need to know how everything works together.
And hairpins they always have a longer straight on one side or the other. Just about always. So which side does the speed matter more? And this leads into something, the last thing I want to talk about today. It applies to hairpin corners very, very more than most other corners. Distance versus speed.
This.
They both matter, but the line with your best speed or your best exit speed is not always your fastest time if you have a lot of choices. You've got to find that combination of your distance and speed to get the best time. Yeah, the only really way to do this is with some telemetry to see what your time in that segment is, trying it different ways. Like go 5 laps one way, doing everything normally everywhere else, and then 5 laps the other way. See what happens when you do it. An example is the banked corner at Thompson in the old section we talked about this earlier, or the carousel at Shenandoah. So the inside and outside lines have a huge difference both in speed and distance. And in the testing we did at Thompson, we found that the greater distance line got us enough more speed that it ended up giving us about a half-second advantage. And at Shenandoah, Jeff, how many times did we stay on the outside? But you can go into it that 2 cars can go in. Someone can go way up on the apron, all the way tight.
Yeah.
And someone can go way on the carousel. And at the end, how many times do you end up right back next to them?
Rocketing through if you're on the banking.
If you did it right, but even if you had it depends on your car as to how much you have cornering or you have power.
No, if you had an equal cars on both sides.
Yeah. If you got muscled out of the center and you had to go top or low, you ended up next to the car that you entered with.
Yeah.
But still, it's amazing how many times you end up right back in the same spot, even though they drove much less of a distance, but you have much faster speed, but you end up in the same spot. So this happens a lot in autocross. I think more so even than this is that there's they'll leave an autocross course fairly open in certain spots. Do you take the tighter corner to get through it at a shorter distance, or do you go a longer line that keeps you up with more speed? It's not always self-evident. Watch what the faster cars do. Experiment with it. It's not, and the hard part is you can't just tell by checking your exit speed. Like, what is my exit speed by the time I get to track out, for example? That's a great way to know how you're doing how your corner's going. But get that telemetry on there, see how your times are, or if you're with a car that's similar to you, run a different line than they do, and see how you end up a turn and a half later.
Yeah, and how wide it is makes such a difference in the distance. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Shenandoah. The difference between lane 1, 2, and 3 are door handle to door handle. The distance between lane 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and 8 at Thompson and the Bowl are many yards.
Oh, yeah.
So if going on the banking at Thompson is way more distance, so it better be way more faster.
Yeah,
that's proper English?
It's
way
good
more
enough.
Faster.
Our listeners are not actually the most verbose.
Also, Aaron Lang is probably the one who's correcting our English right now.
Probably. He's didn't grow up with an American public school system, so. Yeah. And this goes right back to what Chris said. You need to test. You need to get out there during the practice session or when you're lapping early in the race. Try something this way. Try something this way. Know if this guy is faster than you. Know if this guy is closer than you. Try what he isn't doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a long race.
Give it a shot, or talk with other people. How do they do it? Have they tried anything else? If you're out there with a friend that you know is good, or if you're going at the same time, say, hey, I'm going to try this corner this way. Let's, if you do it the other way, let's see which one works better. And if you're friends, then, you both want to get faster. Unless you don't. Sometimes you say, ha, fool. But,
sucker!
Yeah.
All right.
And that goes back to the bring better beer and help people out with their cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
That was a lot.
Anything
That was
else
heavy.
for the good of the order?
I feel good about this. Yeah.
I feel like last week was a lot more visual because we were talking about the perfect line, where I feel this week was much more philosophical. So I like what we did this week.
Well, we had to have last week to make this week possible.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to move on. If you have any cornering suggestions or thoughts on what you want us to talk about to make you faster, go ahead and throw us an email. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, it is time for Hella Sweet or But Terrible. And I have a feeling that everyone is going to think this is But Terrible. But I'm going to make a pitch the other direction. We talked about the Mustang Mach-E. We have in the past talked about the Eclipse Cross. I owned and drove a Ford Taurus X for a very long time. How do we feel about renaming SUVs with historical car names?
Oh, Mental's hand popped right
Mental's
up.
like, bam, he's ready.
All right, so first off, I've got an objection to what you define as classic car names. Taurus, really? Eclipse? No. I'll accept that the Mustang Mach-E. I'll accept that the Mustang Mach-E is a historic name, but no.
Tauruses between 80 and 89 than they sold Mustangs.
Well, it came out in 86, but yeah.
I'm saying I'm giving Mustang all 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm saying they sold more Taurus.
Hey, and the Eclipse was a classic among its time and peers.
It had
I'm saying that for
two
Jeff.
generations.
I'm saying that for Jeff.
It had two generations.
All right. Anyway.
3, 4.
Yeah.
4 generations.
It's true. Only two of them mattered, though.
2 that mattered. That's right.
I have to turn off my gearhead brain, and I have to
go
turn on my philosophy/marketing brain and recognize that if everybody's complaining about the new Mustang Mach-E, then everyone's talking about the new Mustang Mach-E. So from an effectiveness of letting people know we got a product out there, because last week we were all like, what, Mitsubishi still makes cars? Really? So
they don't.
As an enthusiast, I hate it. As an automobile enthusiast, it's a great idea. Get people talking about your stuff. So I actually am going to go hella sweet.
I can go both ways on this on the cars that you mentioned. I'll go from one side. The Mustang Mach-E is terrible. They're ruining their brand equity. They have the tremendous brand equity in the Mustang name and the feel and everything about it. And by you put it on this big electric station wagon, you're ruining the brand equity you have with Mustang.
And they had a number of classic recognized names. Why not Galaxy 500 or Galaxy?
Even just if they just called it the Mach-E.
Galaxy E, I love that.
The Mach-E alone.
Blake Z. Wrong and David Obershowski went in an entire thing on Twitter about 1,000 great names that they could have leveraged. But you're right.
So
they're ruining Mustang equity.
that I think ruins their brand equity. You're right, mental people are talking about it, and but that's not what they think, and you ruin the brand equity for the other people. Eclipse Cross, nobody cares, frankly, so it doesn't really matter. Taurus X.
Wait. The last dying gasps of Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
Let's call it the Eclipse.
Yeah.
Anything. Just get somebody to buy it.
Next they're going to have the Outlander Evo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can't afford to print any more nameplates. We have like 6 boxes of the Eclipse. Put those on it.
That's all anyone's going to buy is 6 boxes worth. So you're okay there. The Taurus X, I think, was a smart move. That's not an enthusiast car. It's not using an enthusiast name. It's a name everybody knows. And a name that 20 years before was on 80 billion station wagons that were in everyone's family. Everyone's family had a Taurus or Sable wagon or knew somebody that did. That was just that that was the school pickup car before everyone had an Explorer, was the Taurus wagon. And that's what the Taurus X was. It was a Taurus wagon. It was the same platform. It wasn't really any taller. It was just a Taurus wagon. So call it that. Like it people generally know what a Taurus is. Yeah, it's a big Ford that's okay. Like right?
I love my Taurus X. Not for any reason.
It was a decent
other
car.
Than
yeah.
It was so almost not an SUV.
Yeah.
So I think it was on the same platform as the Volvo X90 or the X.
Yeah, the Volvo S90 and yeah.
Yeah.
The Volvo,
yeah.
The
Well,
Volvo it's a P80 platform is what it's called.
Yeah, that's it. The P80 platform.
They should have just named it the Not a Camry, Not Dead Yet.
It was basically like 7/8 of a Ford Flex. Like it was just a little smaller than the Ford Flex, and it had that stupid 3.5 they put in everything, and that was a great car. But anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about renaming SUVs. If they want to convince a car person to buy an SUV, they need to name it these things. And the Taurus X is what I was going to suggest. I don't like Mustang. I agree with Chris. They are destroying a brand equity, and they should still sell Mustang because they are not going to kill the Mustang to replace it with the Mustang Mach-E. It's just going to create confusion. But if you're a Taurus person and you walk in and you say, "Oh, I want the new Taurus," and like, "Oh, well, there it is. It's a bigger box on wheels now." Great idea. So I agree with the marketing. I think a lot of SUVs are named stupid stuff.
Cannon Arrow.
There's too many letters and numbers and goofy things that don't make any sense. They really should use things like Canyon.
Mercedes E400.
ML. No, I don't like that either.
A GLC 43 AMG Coupe 4MATIC.
I don't know what any of that crap is.
The listeners at home can't see all of us with our 6 collective thumbs pointing down, but we're doing that. That's exactly what we're doing.
So yeah, I want car names. I'm tired of numbers and letters and
I'm happy Lincoln is going back to actual names like the Nautilus, the Corsair, things like that. Not the MK
car.
Who the hell whatever knows what the hell word it was like or what Infinity's doing. It's a Q something. No matter what it is, it's a Q something. I don't know. Yeah. And
in Cadillac, I understand what Cadillac was trying to do, but Cadillac had its own heritage, and Seville and Escalade.
Eldorado.
Seriously.
Yeah.
That implies elegance.
But XTC, ETC, SU, whatever. Give them names, people. By the way, Mazda is not this because the name of my car is the Mazda, Mazda 3.
And Mazda's always had numbers too. They've never had. They've never gone the other way, and it's always been.
No, they've had the Millennia, Miata.
But like the 3 was the 323. The 6 was the 6.
Protege.
The 121 was the Fiesta or the Festiva.
Anyway,
I always thought your Miata or your Mazda's name was Oscar.
No, not at all.
Because it's a grouch.
Anyway,
lives in a trash can. Yeah.
Trash. It's trash. Anyway. Next show promo. Somebody save us from this.
Hey, folks, it is our annual shopping episode. This is all the stuff that you want. You may not know you want it, but once we talk about it, you're going to want it. I've still got a wrench I got to drop in the mail to Chris. So here's how you're going to be able to tell the special people in your life what you want for the holiday. Now, this may not be your favorite episode, but it is absolutely one of ours. And after SEMA, we are full of some really, really good ideas that you want to see under the tree or in your stocking or some other non-denominational insulting representative of your holiday.
Kwanzaa calls.
Exactly. You're going to want to creatively plant this episode in your loved one's podcast feed.
Because it's Xmas.
Absolutely. So I want to make a bit of a plug for this because not only do we usually talk about cool stuff to buy for gearheads, but man, we saw a lot of little tiny companies doing really interesting things at SEMA. Everyone takes a picture of the giant bulldozers and wants to know if Hankook released a new tire.
Count the Supras.
Count the Supras. But yeah, those little tiny companies, I am still having a little FOMO on a tool that I saw and I didn't buy.
It was the wire one, right?
It was! Yeah. How did you know that?
Because I know.
Oh, man. I was like, whatever price she said, I was like, that's too much money for that. And I got home and I was like, damn, I should have bought that. We're going to talk about it all next week, so I don't want to burn any pod. Let me get my music going. Here we go. Woo! I put it up here. If there's nothing left for the good of the order, thanks for downloading us. We hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Everyone Racers. We also hope you'll join us in the world of next week talking about SEMA. Also driving, racing, and building, because everyone can be a racer, even you. If you enjoyed this podcast, subscribe. It is totally free. Then go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. Even if you hate us, give us 5 stars and tell us why. I can hear you typing right now. Those 3 dudes should shut up and let Chrissy back on. Don't worry. This show is hard. I do not. Yeah. If you have any questions or show ideas, drop a comment on our Facebook page, Everyone Racers, or email us at everyone.racers@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram or Twitter at Everyone Racers. Do we tweet anymore? Are we still tweeting?
We tweet constantly. And by we, I mean me.
Only yes. At Donnie, really.
At Donnie. at Donnie. Why you so Florida? Thanks again, and until next week, keep the turny side up. Unless, like us, there is no shiny side, then just keep the wheels down.